Hello, everybody. It's been a while, but welcome again to our bookland. And today we have a very special guest and a very exciting discussion, Don Mahan. And we will be talking about Meet the Players in Projectland. So while everybody is settling and in their virtual seats, just a reminder that we are recording this and this will be available right away on social media. And also, we're live streaming on YouTube. And you have, hi, Don. On the right side of your screen, you have the chat, you have the Q&A. Please use them. And not just for questions, you feel free to add your comments. Nothing nasty, please. Keep it in the terms of decency for whatever. There you go. And tell us how you're feeling. Tell us where you're joining from. Some people like to share their LinkedIn profiles just for good networking. Feel free to do so. We will be posting as well different things throughout the chat. And yeah, that's pretty much it. We can kick it off. We have an hour of amazing, super exciting discussions about Projectland with Don. Don, welcome to our club. It is a very pleasure to have you with us, and looking very much forward to this conversation and finding more about you and about your book and other projects.
Thank
So
you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this, and I noticed that it's episode 25. So congratulations on your milestone. And I
thank
love
you.
milestones. Yeah.
And stats, as we were
Yeah.
just talking. It is a stat. It is a milestone. Um, yeah, we've been doing this for about 2 years, 2 years and a half now, I think, and it's great. It's a great experience. It's a great project, and we just hope to continue delivering good content for the community. So thank you for the congratulations, and also with this occasion, I can congratulate you on behalf of the PMO leader for the book, because that was recently launched in April this year, right?
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was the original date was April, and we decided not to stress ourselves out too much. There's a lot to do with the book project. And so Jerry Manis, who I see is attending here, hi Jerry, and we decided to launch it in May instead. And when we were choosing the date, we were looking at the calendar and I said, Jerry, don't the like big publishers launch usually on a Tuesday? And he goes, yeah, but we don't have to do that. And I said, because my dad's birthday is that Tuesday down there in May. And he's like, I guess we have our date. So, in honor of my dad, we launched it on his birthday on May 28th. So, very
Very
excited.
nice. It
Yeah.
adds more to it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I really felt that I wanted to launch it on a special date. So we were originally thinking like 4/24/24, right? Like that's a cool date. But then, that it didn't really work out to make sure that it was going to be a high quality launch. And so then ended up with my dad's birthday, which is an extra special date for me. So,
That's perfect. And how long have you been working on the book before launching?
so this particular book, I went back in the archives and the first draft of the manuscript started in March of 2023. So 3/20/23. And in fact, I think it was 3/23/2023, which is wild. And then we launched in May. So it was it was over a year. But this is my second attempt at launching a book, and thank goodness for Jerry. And we can talk more about the book project later. But um, I started to write a book called Welcome to Project Land much earlier, and it's I got some great feedback on it, and then I got some mixed feedback on it that hurt me in the heart a little bit. And I was like, okay, pause. Like, I have to rethink this. And so I was speaking with a lawyer, And the lawyer said, well, to get Projectland in the book realm, you need to put out like a little book, put out a small book with Projectland in the title. Then when the big book comes out, which was what I thought, Welcome to Projectland was going to be, it may still be, then Projectland should be a registered trademark in the book world, because I already have the registered trademark for Projectland in some other categories. And so I started to talk to Jerry about what are we going to do about this, small book. And I said, well, let's introduce the animal avatars, to the world. And that'll be we thought it was going to be a pamphlet. It's a regular sized book. Like, so, there's a lot to talk about with the people.
So it ended up becoming one book so far.
Yeah.
As far as we know at this time.
Yeah. So at this time, the first book, my first book ended up being a different topic than I thought, which I'm so excited about, because it really gets at the people part and the people side of projects in a very different way. And it should help all the project people, not just the project manager, where a lot of books are aimed at the project manager. It makes sense. Project manager needs to be trained, needs a lot of help. But this one is really for the sponsor, the steering team, the project manager, the team leads, the team, all of the creatures in Projectland, to help them be successful in their roles. And I find that most books, most publications out there that I've seen are really about the process. They're for the project manager. They're not as much for, all the project people that need to know how to deal with Projectland and be successful in their roles.
Wow. And I think that it definitely catches a wider audience, and not just that, but also the nice correlation with animals, that of course that's probably my next question about, because it's such a unique innovative idea. And I think people really can relate to things that are real and that they can make easy associations with. So how did this idea come from, to use animal avatars to describe Projectland?
Well, there are a couple of pieces that sort of came together for me. So I have a mathematics degree. I love patterns. And so I like a couple things came together. So the first thing that happened was back in about 2010, I was consulting for a company, and I was having conversation with a couple of the executives. And so I'm sitting outside of Philadelphia in one of the executive offices, and in the middle of the conference table is the bat phone. Remember, like the Polycom bat? It was like a bat phone, and because the guy that was running Asia Pacific his voice was in the phone, right? So I'm presenting a couple ideas, and one of them is, when you're selecting project managers, because they were fairly low maturity in project management, which is why we're having the conversation. So when you're identifying people that could become great project managers, one of the things that you want to look for is that they can see the forest and the trees. And I hear this like chuckle coming out of the bat phone. and it was him. It was Mr. Wutong from China. And I'm like, what's so funny? And he says, well, we have a Chinese proverb about this. And I'm like, a funny Chinese proverb? Can you share? Would you mind sharing? And everybody's around the table going, yeah, we want to hear this, right? So he said, okay, so the Chinese proverb is like this. There are animals. There are eagles, for instance, that fly high, and they live up on the cliffs, and they see the forest, and once in a while they'll swoop down and cause utter chaos, right? And then he was in like, that's executive management, and he chuckles, right? And so, and everybody around the table is like, yeah, that's me, yeah, right. And then he said, and then there are our folks, and just like the animals, like the ants, they're in the weeds. I mean, they're never getting out of those weeds. They're in the weeds. They love it. They live there. They're in the weeds. Like, okay, fair. And he goes, so what you're saying, Dawn, is project managers need to be like ducks. They need to be able to fly high, see that forest, go down, work with the people in the weeds, right? And then also they can swim, and you know how ducks swim, right? They look calm on the surface, but they're paddling like crazy underneath. And so we all laugh, and I'm like, yeah, Mr. Wutong, I love your Chinese proverb, but I have one thing I have to say. And he's like, what? And I said, harness your inner duck is probably not as inspiring as like harness your inner tiger. Like that big cat courage, you know, you're as the project manager, you're not the lion, you're not the king or queen of the jungle necessarily. That's the sponsor. But you're awfully close, right? Because if you've ever seen a tiger in real life, they're big cats. They're super big cats too. And so like it just, I think he really planted the seed that day with his proverb that said, you know, that like everybody had a fun time kind of listening to him talk about it, relating to the different behaviors that animals have, and having a good conversation about that. So that's really, I think, where it started way back in 2010.
All we need is a Chinese proverb. But that's amazing, though. You know how some things in life you just hit on, and then they influence what you do next.
Yeah,
That's
and
pretty.
it's been an amazing journey since then, you know. And then I was looking for a new logo because I started pmotraining.com a few years later, and I found this logo, and it was this like digital tiger, and that's our logo today, which I love. And so I'm like, there's the tiger again, and I always felt really amazed by tigers, just absolutely amazed. And so I thought, there it is again. And I just fell in love with this logo. And I was like, wouldn't it be fun to do, you know, when we're doing training, because the name of the company is PMO Training, right? Like, so when we're doing training, wouldn't it be fun to use animals to explain the roles as we talk about the roles in Projectland? And so, you know, when I started to introduce the tiger as the animal avatar for the PM, and then started to talk about that, they're, you know, they're not quite the lion, but awfully close. Like it started to really formulate as this thing that people were relating to. So it was working. So I'm like, well, great, you know, that's cool. Because if you're using, you know, just like he did in his proverb, if you're using behaviors that are related to animals, then nobody can get mad at you, right? If you're like, Fred is like a snake, then Fred, some really nice guy named Fred who, you know, would get mad, right? Like he'd be offended, and he should be. But if you're like, listen, the snake is like this, everybody's like, yeah, that's how snakes are. Right? I mean, so it just seems to help to have these conversations that we need to have about the behaviors and the characteristics, the helpful ones and the not so helpful ones that people have when they're under stress. And Projectland is stressful, let's face it.
And it's a good detentioner. I think it's nice, exactly as you point out, you know, you have all this pressure and stress. So when you come with something that's refreshing, you probably get a lot of people, you know, laughing and just feeling a bit more, you know, taking the stress out of the equation and actually being able to, you know, play a game and also think it through and probably make good business decisions, and you know everything kind of falls into play somehow. So
You
the
know,
project manager is the tiger.
yeah, the project manager is the tiger. And I love what you just said, because it reminded me of when I do what I like to affectionately call sponsor school. It's really project management for executives, right? It's for the executive leaders, for the lions, for the
For the
sponsor.
lions.
Yeah, for the lions, right? So, and in fact, one of the future books is, you know, how to lead like a lion and not bite somebody's head off, basically, is like the idea. Because you know, when I do sponsor school, one of the first things I do is I put this beautiful photo of a lion up, and I say, just tell me the first word that comes to mind. And so they give me all these words, and then I weave together a story about it. And then I'm like, this is you guys. this is you. This is you in the role of a project sponsor. And they're like, oh shoot, I should have used a different word, right? But it's a great conversation, about how, yes, lions can be fierce, yes, they can be courageous, yes, they can protect the herd, yes, they can also bite somebody's head off and be scary, and all of those things are true about lions. So it's like, what kind of project leader are you going to be?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I told you before that I really like animals, so I think that for me, this book is, just just a sweet spot, and I'd love to hear more about your training sessions, especially if you're kind of using the animal avatars in them. I think that's even neat. Are you, aside from the book, are you implementing the animal avatars in other projects now that you kind of launched the idea already?
Yeah, so I was for years, which is why we were like, well, let's put it in a book. In fact,
Okay.
yeah, if it weren't for my friend Crystal Richards, who's also a project guru, who introduced me to Udemy when they were looking for a trainer, and Udemy saying, like, what do you have that's different? I'm like, well, I have animal avatars. They I hope you don't think it's weird. And they're like, tell us more. And so I'm like, okay. So I told them, and they were like, you're hired as our expert. So I'm like, they liked them. Like, okay, they liked them. So they actually get a mention in the acknowledgments, and so does Crystal, because if they had not liked the animal avatars and hadn't like really been enthusiastic about them and let me work with them and bring them to life in the Udemy course that we co-created, my animal avatars would have gone the way of the dodo bird.
Or not, who knows? You never know how life would have changed, but I
That's
guess it
true.
probably just gave you a bit of a boost,
It
the
sure
fact
did.
that they liked it, right?
Yeah, it sure did, because they know their business clients, and they wanted to create this course as a response to their business clients' request to have a project management and agile smart tips course. So the little videos, little micro learning videos, which I had always wanted to do. So yeah, so that, I mean, it's been in the works. The animal avatars, thanks to them, really got out there, to the world, and then now in the book. So, and then of course I was using them in trainings already, or I wouldn't have had them to talk about with Udemy.
So now going back to the book, you mentioned that it's pretty much introducing well, as it's called, Meet the Players in Project Land. So it's pretty much a breakdown of who you are going to meet in Project Land, or in a project but not only as a project manager, right? It's just about kind of looking at everybody that you will find there.
Yeah, and I have to explain, okay, meet the players in Project Land. Well, first I have to explain Project Land. So
Hmm.
the first section is all about sort of laying the groundwork around, well, what is Project Land, which is probably um, the part that I'm most known for, is this word Project Land. And I love it because it helps people get that projects are different than business as usual. And then they start to really understand it. So in the organizations that we work with that are low maturity, they usually have everybody's doing projects and their day jobs too. And so they're wearing a project hat over here, and then in the next hour they're wearing their day job hat, and then they have to go back to the project hat, and they don't know the difference. Like, they don't know where they are, and that the roles and rules are different on projects. So that concept has really helped people to get it. You know,
Hmm. To make the differentiation.
Correct. And they start to think about, well, gee, okay, so what on my when something drops on my desk, what is it? Is it a project, or is it just, day job work task stuff? And so they have, when we go through some of these things that are in the book, they have the tools to be able to figure it out, and then how to respond to that when work drops on their desk. They and then if they determine it might be a project, they know what to do.
That's a good point. I actually, interestingly enough, I was taking a course a few weeks back, and there was a discussion about projects versus how to identify projects from just the day-to-day operational administrative type of activities, and a lot of people were getting them wrong, and even myself, and I work in project management for quite a while, but even some were so in a gray area that it was confusing. Is this actually a project, or is it just operations? So it's good that you kind of set the ground rule with the project land, and then going and meeting all those nice animals.
Yeah, because like even with sport, like I played sports, right? I love sports, and so I feel like when you are learning a new sport. So I sponsor a girls' flag football team. They don't even know what a quarterback is. First day of practice, they don't know what a quarterback is, right? Most of them. They're in third grade. Like they don't know. So they have to learn the roles. They have to know what is a quarterback and what is she going to do, right? They have to know what
Mhm.
is a kicker and when does she kick? What does she do? How does she kick that? Like it is so wild to see newbies to a sport have to learn the roles and the rules of the sport, right? And so I was thinking a lot about that, before even the book, and it was like people just dive in. They're like their boss says go do, and they just go do, and they don't think about, well, who do I need, who might really be able to help me here, right? Who do I need to talk to? Who might care about this project and who might care about this project in a way where they want to kill this project, right? Like, I mean, people don't, they just go, but in a lot of areas.
And what I find that with this just go thing, when you get stuck and you go and ask, who should I, they usually take you to go and check the process.
Right.
Go and check the plan, the SOP, the guideline, whatever, the work instruction. And then you spend a lot of time doing that over and over again. When some things are just straightforward, and I think if you're getting your hands dirty a few times, you would probably remember next time, and it will come more natural who you should be technically reaching out to for certain activities. Of course, there might be specifics different depending on the project,
Sure.
but yeah, there's some general categories that I'm sure you're talking about. So I'm curious, what's your dream team?
My dream team. Oh, I love that question. So there's a dream team chapter, and so since you like the animals, I'll use the animals too in talking about this. So let's talk about my book project since we're books and beyond, right? So my dream team, I really had the dream team for this book project. So we had the cover designer, Carrie, who we couldn't figure out, was she a bison or a gazelle or both? So we decided she was both because she worked so fast. She was so fast. That's the gazelle. But she was also so strong. She knew exactly what to do, how to do it, how to handle us, like me as a newbie to this whole book world. I mean, she was unbelievable and super cool, wonderful to work with. And so we hope to work with her on many more, covers and interior. She also did the interior design because we love what she did so much with the cover. So sometimes, good work gets you more work, right? Like that's happens a lot. And then we have Butterfly Beth. She goes by Butterfly Beth on her like Instagram profile before we even started with the animal avatars. So she is our dolphin because she brings the fun. She loves people. She just wants everybody to be happy. She loves to, have fun while she works. And she brought the beauty. She really turned the inside of the book into a beautiful works of art in the figures, which I have no talent whatsoever around. So when you build a dream team, it's all about finding people with the strengths you don't have. And so she brought the beauty, Carrie brought, the cover magic, And then Jerry also was a gazelle and a bison and a cheerleader and a dolphin all wrapped into one for me because he was the editor and he was also my accountability buddy. So you were asking me, during our prep session about, the book writing the book and the process. Well, we have done together before for some of his other works, and so for me it was critical to have to write this in an agile way. So we used agile in the writing, no lie. So what we would do is I'd be like, okay, I'm going to work on this next chapter, and I got this concept from a book called Write a Must Read, and it's awesome. It's the, if I might say, SFD. So it's a first draft. Okay, that's what SFD is. So I would send the email. I would work all day on a Saturday, and I'd be spent, on this chapter, and I would email it to Jerry, and I know that Jerry is non-judgmental. I mean, the man is non-judgmental with me. It's unbelievable. So I'd be like, here's my SFD. I hope you don't hate it. And I have to get away from this desk, And so I'd send it, and he'd send me some stuff, and it'd be beautifully encouraging, and he'd send me some edits, and he'd be like, keep going. And so I'd go through it, I'd incorporate it, and then I'd start on the next chapter. So we just went back and forth in these iterations this way. And so it got edited while we went, and I got encouraged. And I feel like most people through action, they can feel more motivated.
Yeah.
Right. So I saw progress. I love progress. So I saw progress, and he was so encouraging that, without him on this, it never would have happened. No way. So I'm so grateful for this dream team I had.
Well, we're all very appreciative for the dream team. I don't know if all of them are on the line, but even if they're not, you can do more if you work together. So it's always nice to hear that there's collaboration. And of course, you being what's your role in the dream team? Are you the project manager?
So
are you the tiger?
Yeah, I wasn't really because I was writing. So I had the subject matter expert hat on as the writer, right? I was writing. And then I was also the lion because I funded it. So, right, as part of the definition of who is the project sponsor is whose money is funding this project. So I was also, the lion on it, and yeah, and so we had to also sort of manage it together. So I would ask for input from Beth, Butterfly Beth with the beautiful magic on the inside, Carrie with the cover, how long does a cover take you, right? How many iterations will you do with us crazies trying to figure out what cover we want, and then Jerry, knows, because he's been through many books projects, what the project plan really needs to look like. So we did lay it out together, but we managed it more together. I was trying really hard not to stress myself out with it, because we want to do more books and we wanted to have fun. And it was really more about getting it out and making it happen, and making quality be number one versus time being number one. So time wasn't number one for us. So it was this has to be a quality book. It's our first book. It's my first book, as an author. So I want this to be high quality first. So we took extra time, like I said, with the April to the May, we took extra time to make sure it was good.
And it looks great. I mean, the cover is really very pretty. I don't know, do you have the book around so we can put it in front?
I have it. Yeah.
I love all the animals. There you go.
Yeah, Carrie did a beautiful job. She really did a beautiful job with it. And then
Amazing,
we have our little sticker here, which says a Project Guru playbook. So the playbook part is meant to be just like in sports. I mean, what plays are you going to run? And so that people can use it as a reference guide when they are in Projectland.
Oh, okay. Wow. Very neat. Do you have it's paper, and then do you have an electronic version of it
Yeah.
on
Yep.
I forgot the
Yeah.
website's name,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
one that we were putting at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have the links for the audience at the end, right?
Mhm.
But it's available now wide. So we decided because we have international clients that don't all use Amazon, and everybody's got like some people really like to feel a book, and other people want to do the ebook because they want to be able to highlight and make notes in there and take it on a plane or whatever. And so we wanted to make it available in both formats, paperback and ebook, and also launch it wide. So it just launched over the past week on Google Play, in addition to a lot of other places. So it's on Amazon, of course,
Congratulations.
Barnes and Noble, and lots of other places that I hadn't even heard of that picked it up internationally. So that's pretty cool.
So how long would you say you've been working on the book? Assuming that it wasn't your, full-time job.
Yeah, it wasn't my full-time job, that's for sure. I mean, I had to focus, like carve out focus time, I found. And so the weekends were really the main
Okay.
time that I could spend because there's a lot going on during the week. I would do some mornings, I would do some evenings, but I couldn't get very far that way. So the real deep work had to be done on the weekends.
So for somebody who is maybe thinking of starting to write, would you recommend going into it, just starting to author a book, or
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
I think if somebody's thinking about it, they should get the Write a Must Read book. For me, it's around here somewhere, but Write a Must Read by AJ. I'm
Let's see
not
if I
sure of her
find it.
last name, but Write a Must Read was huge, and I love her writing style too. So you might know Laura Barnard, who does the Impact Summit. She sent me this book.
Hmm.
She actually sent me that book as a gift and said, you need to get back on your book. Like, I'm sending you all, this great encouragement. It was a beautiful little letter she hand wrote to me, and she got the book signed for me and everything. And so it was a beautiful gift and a kick in the pants that I needed to get going. Yes, AJ Harper. Yep, is the author. Thank you for finding that in the putting that in the chat. Yeah, Write a Must Read, craft a book that changes lives. And she also says that is that's a book that changes lives, maybe even yours. And I'll tell you, the authoring process really is and a lot of people probably have said this, but I definitely learned even more about myself in going through this process. Like, I have to like I could only focus on the weekends, really. Like, I can't. I just couldn't do it very well, during the week. So having that focus time was, if you're going to write a book, like, you have to figure out how on earth you're going to find some focus time to do it if you have a job and a life and all the things.
And I guess be consistent about it as well, right?
Yeah, as consistent as you can. So I mean,
Yeah.
Jerry reminded me recently, he's like, you were writing on planes, you were writing in hotels, you were writing in airports. He was like, you you were everywhere while you were doing this, and I totally forgot that.
Did you find that there was some form of, I guess, an addiction once you started to, thoughts keep coming and you just wanted to kind of lay them out before, before you forget?
I felt it actually felt methodical. It felt pretty methodical because of the agile way that I was working with Jerry and how quick he was, which is why he's also a gazelle. He was so quick at, like, going through it and editing things and giving me comments and ideas and asking questions like, what do you mean here? Like, I'm confused. And if this man says he's confused, every reader on earth is going to be confused. So I'm like, okay, perfect, thanks. So it felt good, just like when you're riding a bike for the first time, it feels pretty wobbly, and
Mhm.
scary. But then when you get it going, you're like, let me like take my hands off the handlebars and, try to have fun with this. And it felt like that at one point.
But you got it there.
We got it there. We got it there. It was a real push at the end too, because I have a perfectionism problem, which really hung me up on the last bit. I mean, and we went through so many editing cycles. He is the most patient man on earth. And I read it out loud to him over Zoom to edit it. And we found so many things that we hadn't found when we were just, kind of reading it and editing it. And so that was a huge tip for any, future authors out there. Reading out loud really is amazing. And the plan is, and I want feedback, so all feedback is welcome, on should I do an audiobook or not. So the plan was to do the audiobook. Jerry's encouraging me to do it. He even said he'd do the intro and the outro, which is cool because his voice is awesome. And some people have said, I want you to do the audiobook because I want to hear it in your voice. And I'm like, that's crazy that you would want to listen to my voice for that long, but okay. Thank you. And so I thought, well, okay, one way to edit it and also practice what it would be like to read an audiobook, because I never did that before. That's how we did the editing. And when you find that you're tripping on your own words that you wrote, you might need to change the words. So that happened as we went through it also during that kind of voice over editing cycle, which was really interesting. And I would totally do that again if he would allow it.
Well, I hope you do decide to go with the audiobook. I think it's going to be useful also for, a lot of people, including myself. I do a lot of things like throughout the day when you're, walking somewhere or going somewhere. So sometimes you get things easier if you hear them. And you have a very nice voice, so I don't think the 2 hours would be a problem. We'll take more.
Oh, thank you so much for that. Nobody likes their voice. Nobody likes to hear the sound of their own voice. I understand, because I did this little thing on the radio at NPR not NPR, at WHYY in Philadelphia, like proper radio studio. I did this little clip for Select Grader Philadelphia, and I'm like, I don't like the sound of my voice. They go, everybody says that. Everybody says that. And they said it's because of how you hear it. These are the pros. It's because of how you hear it when it comes out of your mouth. The vibration is different for you because it's coming out of your mouth. And then I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So I did the thing, and then I was driving up these like cattle chutes going, the speed limit surely. And I have my car radio on really loud all the time, and I was actually listening to the station, and I heard my own voice come in, and I had a Harman Kardon stereo system, like in a Mini Cooper, like all surrounds. So my voice came through the surround sound, and I was like, almost wrecked my car. I thought, oh my gosh, I actually like how they made my voice sound. And then a couple of people were texting me like, was that you? Was that just you on the radio? And I said, yeah. And they were like, that's how. And I said, I don't like the sound of my voice, but it sounded different when it came through the surround sound in the car stereo. And they said, Dawn, that's how you sound. Like, oh, okay. It's crazy. Anyway, thank you for that. I like to listen to audiobooks when I walk the dog. So I'm with you there. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be interesting. A new challenge, a new add-on.
Yeah. So
Why not?
Right. Just more money and more time, but otherwise, why not?
Well,
So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would like to do it if people think would prefer that format.
I'm sure you're probably still getting feedback after the launch and everything. It's probably booming with feedback and and thoughts from the audience. So
Yeah, it's still very new. And in fact, the order of operations is you like with Amazon is you cannot launch an audiobook without having the physical book first. So
mm,
we didn't have a choice anyway. And I realized as we were going through the launch and the editing and finding things and even though we did 472 edits, like we still found stuff. And so it's really good because it's much harder to change an audio file than it is to change a written file. And so I'm grateful for that order of operations actually, because now I know that the manuscript is clean.
yeah, that's interesting. So if you don't have a physical book, you are not able to do an audiobook,
Yeah, isn't
which at
that
least with
weird?
Amazon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought that was wild, but now I'm thinking that might be why, because they know that it gets cleaned up better when you have the written form, and then and then we have the audio. I don't know. I haven't looked into the why behind it, but them's the rules.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's good to know. I'm sure that most people wouldn't know that. I would assume most people are asking, why go with Amazon? I'm assuming it's still
Yeah, most
the
books
main
are.
platform.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm
Mm.
I'm based in the U.S., so most books are being bought on Amazon, especially here in the US. But we also, launched it wide because we know that, and got feedback from clients that not all of their people use Amazon. In fact, I'm going to be speaking. I'm so excited to be speaking at a PMI chapter in the Middle East that they're like, we don't do
Ooh.
Amazon. We don't do Amazon here. I'm like, no problem. How about all these other places? They're like, oh yeah, one of those will work. I'm like, okay.
So it is in bookstores too, right? If you go into a bookstore, it should be there
If you go into a bookstore and it's not there, then you can ask them to get it for you, and
hmm
they will be able to get it for you. Mhm.
from Amazon.
No, not from Amazon.
Oh,
No,
okay.
because they're at war. Amazon and bookstores are basically at war. So
Okay.
yeah, no, so they don't get it from Amazon. They get it from elsewhere, but from a distributor. So we have
hmm
it available for bookstores to get for sure.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. That's great, I'm sure. We'll put by the end we'll put the link as well to all the places that people can buy it from.
Great.
And then as Dawn said, you heard her, we have to give feedback.
Yes, please. Yeah. And the thing that we're doing now is, and I just went on right before this, we have 11 reviews, all of the very coveted 5-star variety, thank goodness, out on Amazon. Because so my publicist is telling us that we have to have 50 reviews on Amazon, because anybody that wants to pick us up like in the media to interview us about the book or whatever, they're going to look first on Amazon to see, if the book is legit, if people like it, and because he called it the Google of books. So he said, you have to get, you really need to push people to give you great reviews that, and even better if they say something, to explain why they liked it, on Amazon. And so we've been encouraging people to, please, when you read the book, please leave an honest review. And thankfully, all of them so far of the coveted 5-star variety. So it's like, if you can't give me the 5 stars, could you please tell me personally why and not the world? Like that would be nice. Like what do I have to do to earn your 5-star rating? That's what I want to know. Right.
What happens with those, for example, if you have people buying the book from the bookstore, how
Yeah.
can
So
they give you the review? Because
yeah.
it
So
won't appear on Amazon.
yeah, that's fine. The guidance that we get is that wherever they get the book, if they can review it from whatever platform they get it on. So like if they get it at Barnes and Noble, then they could review it on Barnes and Noble, I would imagine. Right. Google Play, just like I said, got released. So then if you read it there, then review it on Google Play. And that would be really, really helpful because when you go and you look at a new platform that just got launched, like Google Play, it says it was launched on May 28th, but it really just got launched. So because the launch date for the book is May 28th, but it just became available on Google Play because
Recently.
of the process. So it's like, please, if you read it there, please leave a review so that people know it's legit, and they might find it, if you found it helpful, they might find it helpful too. So that's because there are tons of books out there that are not high quality. And so of course people are skeptical. I don't blame them. I'm skeptical too. So the reviews do really help people to be like, oh, that might be worth my time and money. I might get some actual tips out of that I can use in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's good if people can review it in other places as well, because otherwise the Amazon thing would be, I guess, a deal breaker for some. Um,
Yeah,
what
yeah. We wanted to make sure that it was available to anybody that wanted it.
So, because we're kind of coming close to the end here, we have about 10-15 minutes left. And I don't want to steal all all the discussion with with the book logistics, although I personally think it's very interesting, especially for somebody and our audience. There's many people who are interested in starting to write, or they may be writing and they're hiccuping on different steps along the way. So I think this is very useful.
Oh, good.
Is there a section in the book that I know there's one in particular that caught my eye, because not I haven't really seen it talked about, is the psychology in Projectland, and I was curious if you, and of course people you should take the book and read more through it, but what made you put that section in there?
So the psychology part that I think you're referring to is the forming, storming, norming,
Hmm.
performing. Yeah, and then in Projectland we have to have the adjourning and mourning part too. And actually, that's the one with the figure of all the figures that Beth created. That's the one with the figure that if I had to pick a favorite child, that's the one. So the psychology, why I put that in there is because when you talk about the players in Projectland, you have to realize that, like in the figure, it shows an arrow, that anytime someone leaves or gets added to your team, you start over at forming again. And so executives that are like, hey, here's another player, or like, oh, I have to take that player out and put him over here and work on this other thing. It makes you start back at the beginning in the teaming process. And that is really difficult for people that, maybe they've finally formed as a team and they're starting to perform and they're starting to feel good and they're riding that bike and they're having some fun. And then somebody gets ripped out and they have to reform with the remaining players. And it really is disruptive. So there were a lot of reasons to kind of share that concept for people that don't know it. A lot of us that have studied project management know it, but a lot of the players don't know it. And so I felt it really important as far as, because we're trying to serve all the players in this book, to help them understand what might be happening in the storming phase. Because like when you're storming and you're a team member and you don't know that's normal, you might be trying to get out. You might be like, I don't like it here. This doesn't feel good. I want out. I want out off of this team. Right. And it's like what I've had to do many times is calm people down and go, this is normal. Have you heard of forming, storming, norming, performing? And they're like, no. And they're like, okay, well, we're in storming right now. So we just have to get through that so that we can get up to performing and this feels good. Okay. Can we work? And they're like, oh, this is normal. Yes, it's normal. Oh, okay, cool. And it has helped so many teams.
Okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense. And you're right. Now, it's good if you manage to explain it to people who are not in project management and do not know the concepts. Okay. How about, is there any particular, other than this one, section of the book that you find most, I guess you relate to the most?
Besides the bio?
Besides the book.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Jerry said that because I was I was like, I have to do that and see if she laughs. Thank you for laughing. Yes, yes, actually there is. So the Welcome to Projectland Chapter 2, some of the concepts in Welcome to Projectland, I mentioned a little bit earlier in our talk together, but I mentioned some things in that chapter that really get at some of the root cause challenges that we deal with at the organizational level. So as a C-suite advisor, we're trying to help the C-suite figure out how to set the whole organization up for success, not just a particular project team. So when you talk about the culture that is there are challenges. Every culture has its ups and its downs, right? Its strengths and its challenges. And some of the challenges that I talk about in there are real, and they affect all the projects. So when I start to talk about how, hey, this is Projectland, and in Projectland, people might behave a little differently because they're under stress, because the clock is always ticking in Projectland. There's a schedule, that kind of stuff, right? And the executives invested in this project, so they want a return on their investment. I mean, it can be very, very stressful, right? And then they're like, yeah, okay, I can see that. And then, we talk about things like, risk tolerance and organizational authority, and how action and results oriented that the organization is. And if you want results, then that might require planning, or are they just running and doing stuff? Like, what is happening here? So if I had to, choose for me, I feel like that one is the one that resonates with me the most, because I've just seen so many versions of Projectlands out there that, and I try to capture in some of a succinct way and lift up a lot of the things I've seen from a cultural perspective.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, well, I guess the last question before we kind of wrap up, what do you hope people to get from reading the book? What is your expectation, I guess?
Well, just a couple key takeaways that are pretty simple. One is, most projects fail, but it doesn't have to be that way. And why most projects fail, a root cause of that is often because the people were not prepared. They were not prepared for success. And it's the people that are going to make or break your project. It's all about the people. A lot of times, and you mentioned it before, right? People want to go back to the process. They want to go to the process. And I love process. I'm a process girl, no problem, right? I love tools too. I was in tech for a long time, and we talk a lot about the process and tools, but let's get real. I mean, it's about the people. The people can make or break your project, and the people can also make it fun. So if you get that dream team together, and you have a lot more influence than you think a lot of times in formulating your dream team, especially if an executive really wants this thing to happen, and they're like, what do you need? Who do you need? I'll give you anything you want. And I've had executives tell me that when they have their jobs on the line to deliver a project. They'll get you anybody, if they can, they will do it. So, most projects fail, and it's the people that make or break your project. Those are probably the two big takeaways.
Awesome. Well done. Thank you. This was a great conversation. I'm sure there are probably people will want to reach out to you. So what is the best way for them to do that? Is it through LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn. Yeah, please connect with me on LinkedIn. If you got something from this, let me know on LinkedIn, and connect with me and follow me. And you'll get bite-sized tips all the time. We're always putting stuff out, which Beth makes beautiful. I do not, but it's my content. So LinkedIn, please connect with me, and I'll be cheering you on in your version of Projectland as well.
I actually shared the because there's more. It's on one hand you have your LinkedIn profile, and then your other I guess businesses.
Yeah, so Project Guru Academy is where we do LinkedIn Lives. We have a beautiful global community that joins us for some LinkedIn Lives on Project Guru Academy, and that's where we will be doing Meet the Real Players of Projectland. So we're going to have, our plan is to have some people who are really players in Projectland come talk about their roles in Projectland, and people I love and respect, and bring the book to life. And then also the companion course is what I'm working on now for the book as well. So so those announcements will come out on these channels soon.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Thank you.
Actually, so you're going to have like a lion episode, and then the tiger episode, and then okay, not to do spoilers.
You got to bring it to life, right? And people want to meet the
Oh
real
yeah.
players. It's going to be fun.
Yep. And that's the one that the link that I'm showing here is pretty much where people can go and grab a copy of the book, and it has all the other links, the Google that you mentioned earlier, and everything else. And then I'll put in the chat also the Amazon link.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Yeah, I'd love to know where folks are going. So that would be cool if you heard this and you don't do an Amazon, and you went and looked somewhere else for it. I'd love to know where that is. I'm just super curious about that. But hopefully folks can find it at their favorite bookstore, online or in person, wherever they are.
And my suggestion would be that if they do grab a copy of your book, no matter where they leave the feedback, they can always drop that feedback into a LinkedIn message to you. I think that would probably make you smile to have some personal reactions there.
It sure would. Yeah, it really would. And for the launch, we've been doing some fun awards too. So people have, taken like the book picture with goats. The goat one is coming out soon with a cat. Like it's been really fun. Or just there, the first award was the prettiest thumb in Projectland. And because she had this, book, and she held it like this, right? And with her thumb, and her thumb was gorgeous. And everybody that saw the picture was like, oh my gosh, that woman's thumb is beautiful. And I'm like, we should do prizes, like we should do awards. So so if you do get the book, the paperback, and you have, so a little creativity, or even just want to give a shout out on LinkedIn, tag me, you could be up for an award like them. Pretty cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna be sure to go and find the tiger. Take a picture.
Please, that would be amazing. That would be amazing.
It was really nice having you today, Dawn, and looking forward to our further interactions and hearing more about all the projects you have.
Thank you so much for
Hope
having
you
me.
have a good time. And
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me here, and the time went really fast for me. I hope it did for our listeners too. But thank you again for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you to our audience. And we have more episodes of Books and Beyond this month. Some of them will be recorded, and we'll get those recordings out for everybody. In the meantime, we'll just leave you with Dawn Mahan, and meet the players in Projectland on your mind. Have a great rest of your day, and talk soon. Bye.
Bye.